So what's happening in Washington, D.C.? To find out, we've got Vince Coglainese of the Daily Caller joining us this afternoon. I'm pleased to have him on in light of the fact that he started the morning at 4 o'clock there in Washington, D.C. Was it 4 or earlier? Vince.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
I'm so delirious from lack of sleep that I have no idea.
Sleep isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Vince Coglainese, of course, editorial director of the Daily Caller. He had to get kicked upstairs so that he could do his other job as co-host on WMAL with Mary Walter every morning from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m.
5 to 9.
On WMAL in Washington, D.C., mornings on the Mall. Vince, first question as we begin the program. I was reading both the Washington Post and the New York Times. Everybody's sitting there waiting on the edge of their seat about the release of the Mueller investigation. How excited are you?
For it to be over?
No.
I'm like, I don't know. Is thrilled the right word? It doesn't feel right. What are you picking? Which I'm exhausted. This is time for this nonsense to be done.
Now, I was reading there was a bar outside of DuPont Circle where somebody was giving a presentation on the Mueller report. And I know this is one of those things where Washington, is anything getting done in Washington as they wait, impatiently for their release?
I mean, some things. I mean, Paul Manafort got sentenced today, so he's got to serve a bunch of years in prison.
7.5 years, if I read that correctly.
That's right, 7.5 years. Meanwhile, the Congress is voting to disapprove of the president's national emergency declaration, so that'll happen tomorrow. And it looks like they'll succeed in disapproving of the president's actions, although the president's going to veto it. It'll be his first veto as president, basically saying, no, I get to make a national emergency.
Right.
Thanks to the powers that Congress gave me, and that's what he's going to do. So there's that drama, but beyond that, no, everyone is waiting for the Mueller report. It's any day now is what they keep telling us, but now I'm getting skeptical again.
Right, and of course the real problem is, and it strikes me that, and where I'm seeing this in the form of various releases, that it's going to be somewhat of a whimper rather than something explosive. Everybody's being prepped for that. Is that the opinion there in Washington, D.C.?
It is. It is. I mean, even the most vehement critics of the president seem to believe that's the case. I mean, look what Nancy Pelosi did this week. Nancy Pelosi came out and said, hey, impeachment, let's take that off the table for now. And the reason she says that is because she's preparing her resistance supporters to for a gigantic disappointment in the Mueller report. She doesn't want to get them all charged up and have them all let down by the Mueller findings.
And, of course, then related to that is her desire not to pursue impeachment. Of course, she's having a little bit of a problem, apparently, with her new arrivals, the freshman Democrats in Washington, D.C. And, by the way, how are they – you're sitting there in the center of D.C., literally and figuratively.
Yes.
They're getting a lot of publicity in the outside of D.C., but inside D.C., Talib Rashid, I'll get it here.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and of course AOC. Are they really getting? Are they perceived as being a serious movement in Washington D.C. or just a flash in the pan?
The reason we're seeing them nationwide is because every reporter in Congress is following them around. I mean,
really?
They're mobbed. You have
celebrity.
You have longtime journalists who are tracking these guys around. You have longtime congressmen who can't get a reporter to talk to them because they're so consumed with follling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Really?
Yeah, she's a rock star.
Well, I have had this said by several of the staffers. Of course, former co-host of mine, Elizabeth Schwartzer, was in Washington, D.C., and she said oftentimes that when anybody from Hollywood showed up in Washington, D.C., it was like, led to a magnet. Everybody just rushed to see the rock star, the Hollywood celebrity. So is this all wrapped up in one with these three? They are both a member of Congress, but they're also perceived as a rock star?
Yeah, pretty much. Wow. I mean, it's not quite like, I don't know, Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, but maybe, I don't know, Steve Buscemi, kind of a a lower level celebrity, yeah, they're getting followed all over the place.
All right, and then the other aspect of all this is the president himself, and how is you've interviewed him several times here in the past couple of months. What seems to be his mood? How is he dealing with all of this? Is it like water on the duck's back?
He's ready for the Mueller investigation to be open, if that's not abundantly clear based on his Twitter feed. I mean, if you're wondering what his mood is at any given moment, it's his Twitter feed. I mean, it's the things that he's tweeting out about. I think he's found his footing on attacking Democrats. At least, he's always attacking Democrats, but right now he's been especially capable at it. That's another reason Nancy Pelosi is trying to stress that impeachment is off the table for now, because she doesn't want to feed any ammunition to the president that the Democratic Party is out of control in such a way that voters recoil. So she wants people to think that she's being sensible and that her party's being sensible. This, as you mentioned, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez become the face of the party, become the people who regular Americans are identifying the Democratic Party with people like Cortez. And that's a problem for Nancy Pelosi, and it's a problem for the Democrats in 2020 because they don't want their presidential candidate to be identified as a hair-on-fire socialist, despite all of the best efforts of every single Democrat who's running in 2020 to glom onto socialistic ideas.
All right, and speaking of that, let's talk about Senator Joe Biden, of course, former vice president. The plans are that he's going to announce, or did he announce today? There was some discussion of that. I've not seen the news.
He's imminently going to announce. He's telling lawmakers that he's going to do it, and they keep telling press outlets that he's going to do it. So he's going to announce any moment. Well, Lockwood, if you give me a second, I'd love to call you back in a moment. I got to go down an elevator, and I know I'm going to lose.
All right, I will tell you what. While you're doing that, I'll go to a quick commercial break. Stay with us. We're going to get back with Vince Coglainese here in just a moment, of course, with the Daily Caller. Very quickly,
call me back.
We'll call you back very shortly. And while we're preparing to call him back, let me remind you about Advanced Water Systems, the people that the folks that bring you Kinetico. And of course, we talk about Kinetico and the wide variety of reverse osmosis water purifiers and air purifiers available to you at Advanced Water Systems, but so much more. And it's really the issue of service. Family-owned business that understands what it takes to be a service and provide a service. And if you want to find out more about the outstanding service of Advanced Water Systems and the quality products they sell, that is Kinetico. Advanced Water Systems is the source. Advanced Water Systems, they have offices conveniently located for us in our listening area. Old Sherry Point Road in New Bern, 635-6222 is that number, 635-6222. Home office and showroom, Highway 70 East between Newport and Morehead City. That's 223-4444. That's 223-4444. Or go online to KineticoNC.com, KineticoNC.com. We're going to be chatting back with Vince here in just a moment. I know I've got a caller standing by. Get to you as well. Stay with us here on Viewpoints on the talk station, FM 107, AM 1240. Okay, our guest, Vince Coglainese, correct that last. Our staffer, Vince Coglainese. For those of you who are not aware of it,
of course,
he started out as a member of Youth Points here on the talk station back when we still used horse and buggy, and then moved to the U-Talk, which is now the Y Factor, and worked for us for about 2 years before moving to Washington, D.C., taking a pay cut so he could become the editorial director of the Daily Caller and also the co-host of Mornings on the Mall on WMAL in Washington.
I think the biggest problem, Lockwood, was giving up the helicopter.
Oh,
I think that was the one. Moving to DC. I mean, the airspace here doesn't really accommodate it, but I'm glad. You still have the helipad?
Yeah, I still have the helicopter. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
By the way, speaking of helicopters, Vince is being driven as we speak. He had to get down to the car where he will be appearing later this evening on Fox Business at 6:40. Is that correct?
That's right, 6:40 on the Fox Business Network.
Okay, so after you listen to him today, run to your TV and tune in to Fox Business Report. But keep the.
Don't you think they've had enough?
No.
At some point, they're like, okay, enough with this.
No. Let's talk here for a moment. Another topic. As a matter of fact, every Wednesday I talk to a former classmate of mine in London, and he wanted to talk about your boss, Tucker Carlson, and the dispute there. And I kind of, you know what I got for the audience listening, they know Tom and Bob, when we get to you in a moment, they know Tom. And Tom, who's without question, in spite of his U.S. upbringing, has truly become a Brit and very, shall we say, liberal-minded. But but Vince, he even had to compliment Tucker on his willingness to stand firm. It's gotten ridiculous. There's another story in the Washington Post today about a school where a kid used a racial slur, and the school is all upset. We have become so hypersensitive in this country. At least that's my observations. Your remarks to that in relationship to that and Tucker Carlson.
Did the school need therapists?
Yes,
as counselors and things like that.
This is a big story in the Washington Post today, and
it's crazy.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. Well, this is what has happened. We've become a culture of fainting notes. Right. We're constantly paralyzed by every little thing we hear, rather than figure out a way to overcome it, either man to man or as a group of people in a small group. And it's just everything needs to be brought up into a national crisis, and it's not.
Well, here's the kicker. I want to know
there's plenty of people who are saying offensive things, Lockwood. It's just a matter of whether or not they're in service of the Democratic Party.
Right.
It's all the people who are attacking Tucker now, they're disgusting. So many of them. I mean, especially the president of Media Matters, who the organization that's actually driving this effort to attack Tucker. He's got plenty of evidence in his past of him being. Right. Of him being absolutely disgusting towards all sorts of people. In fact, it's on the Daily Caller today. We've got a huge story about his past and how he's treated people, and it's nauseating. And it's just it's hypocrisy all the way through.
Well, it's not only that. It's a situation where anybody who ever expressed frustration, anger, anyone else, they can't run for public office, and they surely should not be present in the public environment. It is amazing, but I will say, and this is a personal note for Tucker, I'm appreciative of the fact that he's just ignoring it, as the president has done as well. We've got a caller standing by. I want to get to Bob in Morehead City joining us. Bob, good afternoon. Again, Vince Coglainese with us. Yes, sir.
Vince, have you heard anything about Tom Tillis? Is he going to change his mind about voting against Trump because of this latest illegal alien killing in California? He'll have blood on his hands.
Wow.
You mean in the resolution of disapproval? No, I haven't heard anything specifically on Tom Tillis, but I'm going to be watching it as closely as you are and everybody else is tomorrow to see how the Republicans are going to vote and whether or not they're going to vote against the national emergency. This thing is nuts. I mean, let me just break it down. I see national reviews out there saying, "Hey, the president, don't vote for the president's national emergency. Vote against him." That's insane. And here's why: Congress gave the president this power in 1976. The National Emergency Declarations Act. They granted this power to the presidency. Now, if you have a problem with that, you should present legislation in order to change it. You don't vote it down on the principle of, I wish this law didn't exist. The president is making a subjective judgment. Is there a national emergency? The president says yes. And guess his job it is to say that? The president's. And we elected him. So, if President Obama was in the same position, he could declare a national emergency on this issue and people would have to go on it. So, and it has to be, and so for President Trump to do it, now they're objecting when we know for a fact that the vulnerability on our southern border is a national emergency. And if you want evidence of it, look no further than the opioid crisis and the number of people who die every year in our country. It's equivalent to the entirety we lost in Vietnam, and that's in a single year every year.
How many more American lives is the Democrats going to sacrifice to keep fighting Trump?
That's I don't know that that's a question that Vince can answer, but Bob, that's a question you might want to ask.
I wish
the Democrat candidates.
I wish I knew the answer to that question. And I don't just blame Democrats for that. I blame Republicans, too. If we're going to let 76,000 people die a year, at some point, don't you think maybe we'll pay attention to that and fix it? But for now, it continues unabated.
I think Democrats are brain dead anyway. They're not looking at anything but Trump.
That's a good point, Vince. And thank you, Bob, for that call. I appreciate that. And I'm going to ask that question here in just a moment. The whole issue, obviously, there are concerns about topics that, in fact, impact all Americans. To Bob's point, there seems to be just a focus, a laser focus in Washington, D.C., just on the president, regardless of the impact it might have on the voters, on the country's future. How accurate am I on that?
140%. Can I give you a higher number? I mean, it says everything is revolving around him. And I think it's a problem for the Democrats, because if they allow that to be the way that they're perceived going into 2020, it's over. Trump wins re-election. If you spend all of your time obsessed with the guy and constantly beating up on him instead of presenting a positive vision for what you're going to do for the country, you're not going to win.
That's stunning. Of course, real quickly, the disputes among the Republicans over such things, and to Bob's point again, related to Tom Tillis, who's announced that he will not support the president on the wall, the disputes within the Republican Party. I'm getting a feeling, though, that the Republican Party is becoming the Trump Party. Is there some sense of that in Washington, D.C.?
It's an interesting question. I think the Republican Party is being remade, for sure. And part of it is based on the sentiments that put Donald Trump into office, unquestionably. Mm-hmm. And a party should, by the way, adapt to what its voters actually want. And the Republican Party has taken a very long time to do that. It is very much been stuck in this old world view about what the party actually is, and who it thought its base was. You know, there was a time, I think, not too long ago, the Republican Party thought its base was essentially, rich country club suburbanites.
Right.
That they were kind of convinced that these are the guys we should suck up to. But the truth is, the rich country club suburbanites, they're all Democrats.
Right.
Now.
I know.
They're corporate America is Democrat. Google, Facebook, Amazon, they're Democrat. The Republican Party is not the party of big business. It's not the party of the suburban rich country club person. That's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party needs to become, and is slowly becoming, thanks to Donald Trump and others, the party of the working man, the party of of Americans who feel the middle class has shrunk way too much, and that too many people have been left behind by places like L.A., New York, and Washington, D.C.
Vince Coglainese with us this afternoon. Vince, stay with me briefly. I know you're on your way to Fox News, where he will be appearing at 6:40 this afternoon. Of course, on Fox News. You can watch him as well as listen to him. Thank you, Vince, as always. Viewpoints on the talk station, FM 107, AM 1240.